The story begins in front of a massive, never-ending line where a crowd of people waits, looking nervous and desperate. In the middle of this crowd is Arch, a man waiting his turn with great patience. But he isn't there because he wants something for himself. He is doing his job. Arch works as a task sergeant, which means he uses an app on his phone where he gets paid to run errands and do tasks for other people. His current mission is to wait for hours to buy some famous, hard-to-get pastries called zero-B buns for a client who requested them. While the line moves at a snail's pace, Arch chats with another man about how difficult the economic situation is these days. They both agree that the famous American dream no longer exists. Even though they both went to college and have degrees, they feel there are no real opportunities to get ahead. Frustration explodes when, after waiting 2 whole hours, an employee comes out and announces that the pastries are sold out. Arch calls his client to let him know, but the client gets furious and cancels the order, leaving Arch without a single cent for all the time he wasted. To top it off, the situation becomes incredibly unfair. Just then, an investor in the store arrives and gets the pastries without having to wait in line, leaving Arch empty-handed and feeling totally powerless. Later, Arch shows up at his second temp job at Hardware Heaven, a large home improvement store. There he meets Elena, a co-worker in the lumber section who is trying to organize a union to protect the workers. She tries to convince him to join, telling him they deserve better working conditions. But Arch, who has lost hope and is very negative, rejects the invitation. He assures her that he is just passing through to save up money and that fighting the system is useless. That same night, they run into each other by chance at a food truck and decide to have dinner together. They get along very well and the connection between them is real. They talk about their lives and Arch confesses that he has trouble sleeping. Elena recommends a phone app that tells bedtime stories and says it works wonders for her. However, the reality of Arch's life is much sadder and harder than it seems. When they say goodbye, he goes to his home, which is actually his own car. He talks to his dad on the phone and lies through his teeth, making up a story about living in a cozy apartment that doesn't actually exist. He tries to sleep parked in a discreet spot, playing the program Elena suggested, but he can't find peace. Commercials pop up constantly demanding he pay for a premium subscription, interrupting the story and reminding him that he is poor even when he tries to dream. Meanwhile, on a spiritual plane that humans cannot see, we meet Gabriel, an angel with big ambitions. In a meeting in heaven, he listens with envy as another angel, named Azrael, tells the heroic story of how he saved a soul at Niagara Falls using visions of hope. Inspired by this, Gabriel begs his supervisor, Martha, to give him an important mission. Martha, who is very practical, denies his request and reminds him of his boring current job, preventing people from texting while driving. She assigns him a small task instead: keep Elena from crashing her car into a pole that week. But Gabriel is stubborn and insists he has found a lost soul who truly needs help. He is referring to Arch. Arch's life on Earth continues to go from bad to worse. A security guard wakes him up abruptly and kicks him out of the parking lot. Since he has no home, he sneaks into a gym bathroom to clean up. There, he has to endure a very weird conversation with Leonard, an acquaintance who asks for toothpaste and talks about a girl who smells like blueberries. Desperate to earn some money, Arch accepts a new task on the app, cleaning the garage of Jeff, a man with a lot of money. The difference between their social classes is gigantic. Jeff welcomes him in a friendly way while doing his health routine, alternating between jumping into an ice bath and then a sauna room. Arch works with almost military efficiency, organizing all the clutter and even inflating the pool toys. Jeff is very impressed by how hardworking Arch is, and after offering him some fancy burrata cheese, listens to Arch's proposal to become his personal assistant. Jeff agrees to put him on a 1-week trial. Arch adapts quickly to Jeff's fast-paced and strange world. His tasks are very varied, from hiring a shaman for a spiritual ayahuasca trip to coordinating the installation of a dance floor and buying a $250,000 watch engraved with "Pretty Baby." Jeff explains that his fortune comes from a venture capital firm that invests in new businesses, talking about his wealth as if it were no big deal. Trust grows between them. One day, Jeff shows Arch a gun he keeps hidden in a safe, gives him the code to open it, and gives him some scary advice: if an intruder enters, shoot first and ask questions later. Then the mood changes. Arch asks for permission to leave early because he has a date with Elena. Jeff gets excited and starts acting like his life coach. He forbids him from going for tacos, recommends a very elegant restaurant called Dunsmore, and even lends him a designer jacket to ensure his success. The date at Dunsmore has a bittersweet taste. Although the place is perfect, the prices are exaggeratedly high. Arch and Elena decide to share dishes to spend less, but the bill is still a danger to Arch's pocket. In an impulse to keep up appearances and not look bad in front of Elena, Arch makes a fatal mistake. He pays for dinner using the company credit card Jeff had entrusted to him. The consequences arrive immediately. The next day, Jeff confronts Arch. Even though Arch begs and promises to pay back all the money, Jeff feels personally betrayed and fires him right then and there. Back to misery, Arch has to resort to selling his own plasma for a few dollars. Exhausted, he falls asleep at a Denny's, but upon waking up, he discovers something terrible. The tow truck has taken his car, which was his home, because of many accumulated tickets. Arch has hit rock bottom. He has no job, no money, and no roof over his head. That is Gabriel's moment. The angel appears before Arch on the street, spreading his wings and introducing himself as his savior. Trying to imitate the angel Azrael, Gabriel shows Arch visions of his hopeful future if he keeps fighting honestly. But the future he shows him is horrible, a miserable delivery job where he has to pee in bottles so he doesn't lose time, living cramped in Elena's mom's house, and suffering because he can't afford surgery for a sick dog. Arch's reaction is not what Gabriel expected. Far from feeling inspired, Arch recoils in horror at that life full of suffering and poverty. He yells at the angel that his life is worthless and that he only exists to serve rich people like Jeff. Gabriel, frustrated and determined to teach him a lesson and change his perspective, takes a drastic measure. He snaps his fingers and changes reality. Arch wakes up suddenly behind the wheel of a luxury sports car in front of Jeff's mansion. He enters the house and finds Jeff dressed in simple clothes, acting as if he were his assistant, and handing him his slippers. Gabriel appears, visible only to Arch, and explains what is happening. He has swapped their lives. Now Arch has all of Jeff's money and status, and Jeff is living Arch's daily struggle. The switch will last until Arch decides he wants to return to his old life. Dazed but fascinated, Arch explores his new reality. The mansion is now his. While he rests by the pool, Gabriel insists he go to an important business meeting, hoping the stress of the work will teach him a lesson. But the complete opposite happens. The meeting is a pleasant farce. The partners eat top-tier sushi and complain about trivial things like the smell of some candles, charging all expenses to the company account. Arch discovers that the life of the rich is absurdly easy. Upon returning home, he is informed that the pool heater has broken, and fixing it costs a lot of money. Gabriel watches, hoping to see Arch worry about the cash. But Arch simply authorizes the payment without hesitation, understanding that money eliminates daily problems like magic. With his new confidence and infinite resources, Arch decides to win Elena back. He goes to the store, pretends to meet her for the first time, and asks her out. This time, he takes her to the same expensive restaurant, but the experience is totally opposite. They order the most exclusive dishes without looking at the price. At the end, the manager tells them dinner is on the house, courtesy of the establishment, for being VIP clients. Gabriel watches in confusion as wealth attracts even more free stuff, while Arch enjoys the irony of the situation. When the trial week ends, Gabriel confronts Arch, sure that the human will have learned that money doesn't buy happiness and will want his real identity back. He is wrong. Arch flatly refuses. He prefers the superficial and comfortable life of being Jeff over the struggle to survive as Arch. Gabriel tries to pressure him, but discovers with horror a heavenly rule that cannot be changed. He cannot force the change. The person has to desire it voluntarily. Arch doesn't want to go back, so he stays trapped in Jeff's life indefinitely. The mission failure is a total disaster. Martha scolds Gabriel for being arrogant and for changing the destiny of many people. As punishment, she rips off his wings and strips him of his divine powers. Gabriel is banished to the human world, vulnerable, visible to everyone, and trapped in the mess he caused himself. The next day, during a party at the mansion, the divine reality shatters. Gabriel no longer has wings, and all the guests can see him. Facing the unfairness of the situation, the ex-angel decides to do something. He touches Jeff's shoulder, who believes he is the poor assistant, and floods him with all the memories of his original life at once. The impact causes Jeff to faint, and when he wakes up, he panics. He demands to get his life back, even going so far as to offer Arch cash to undo the switch. Arch is tempted by the money, but he doesn't want to return to poverty so soon, so he negotiates for a little more time. They agree that he will enjoy the wealth for a few more days. Jeff, resigned, takes in Gabriel, who is now a homeless human, and the two end up sharing a room at a cheap motel. However, their stay lasts very little. The next morning they get kicked out because they can't pay, leaving them literally on the street. Karma hits Jeff hard. He is forced to live the harsh reality Arch lives daily. He tries to work for the delivery app using Arch's old car, but it is a disaster. He struggles with the manual transmission, gets terrible ratings, and has to endure the scorn of rich customers. The humiliation reaches its peak when he discovers he won't get paid until the end of the week, forcing him and Gabriel to sleep in the car, hungry and very uncomfortable. Meanwhile, the arrogance of Arch's new status begins to destroy his true relationships. He tries to impress Elena by proposing a sudden trip to Paris, but she, committed to her union fight, rejects him because she has an important meeting. Arch, blinded by his ego, belittles her efforts and insinuates that her fight is useless. Disappointed by his lack of empathy and his change in attitude, Elena decides to distance herself from him. Upset and distracted, Arch makes the mistake that almost cost him his life at the beginning of the story. He drives while texting. This time there is no guardian angel. He suffers a serious accident that leaves him in a coma. Gabriel receives the news of the accident and breaks it to Jeff with great sadness. Now they are trapped in that miserable reality until Arch wakes up and voluntarily decides to change his life. To make matters worse, Martha informs Gabriel that he is permanently fired until he resolves all this chaos. Gabriel begins to experience what it means to be fully human. He feels hunger and cold for the first time in his existence. Jeff teaches him how to eat, and the angel discovers the earthly pleasure of eating burgers and drinking milkshakes. But they need money urgently. Jeff tries to return to his old investment firm, but security guards forcibly remove him because they don't recognize who he is. With no other options, Gabriel gets a job washing dishes. His joy at receiving his first paycheck comes crashing down when he sees how much was taken out for taxes, leaving him barely enough to survive. Weeks later, Arch wakes up from the coma. Jeff, receiving a delivery notification at Arch's old address, realizes he has returned. Jeff rushes to his old mansion, anxious to get his life back. However, the encounter is very frustrating. Arch pretends not to recognize him, saying he has convenient amnesia and short-term memory loss caused by the accident. He even hands him a medical pamphlet to justify his act, leaving them trapped in misery indefinitely. Desperate, Jeff demands to speak to some higher authority, but Gabriel confesses that he no longer has bosses. He is now a mere mortal who smokes to deal with stress. Far from giving up, Jeff encourages Gabriel to fight to get his wings back. Inspired, Gabriel deduces that all the chaos started when he failed his mission with Elena. He concludes that if he manages to help her, maybe everyone's fate will be fixed. With renewed purpose, Gabriel crashes Elena's union meeting. He delivers a passionate speech about how money should be used to enjoy life, mentioning chicken, nuggets, and milkshakes. But when he honestly admits he doesn't work there, security kicks him out. The effort is useless. The union loses the vote, and Elena is devastated. That night, Gabriel drowns his sorrows at a bar. His co-worker, Felipe, tries to cheer him up and takes him dancing. On the dance floor, a daily miracle occurs. Felipe introduces his wife, who turns out to be the same woman Gabriel saved from an accident at the beginning of the story. Seeing her alive and happy, Gabriel understands that his actions did have a positive impact, restoring hope in himself. At the same time, Jeff's life as a delivery driver hits rock bottom. He is fired and replaced by automated delivery robots. On his way out, he discovers that the tow truck has taken the car due to accumulated tickets, repeating exactly the same cycle of misfortune that Arch lived. Fed up and knowing that his birthday is being celebrated at the mansion that night, Jeff decides to sneak into the party to steal his own luxury watches, trusting that Arch's alleged amnesia will protect him. The party is in full swing, but Arch feels strangely empty, surrounded by so much luxury. Elena, who is working as a waitress at the event, approaches him when the guests have left. She confesses that she lost her apartment and lives in a car, but she tells him firmly that she prefers to fight from the bottom with honesty rather than enjoy an empty mansion. Her words resonate in Arch's head, making him question the value of the life he stole. Taking advantage of the distraction, Jeff sneaks into the master bedroom to open the safe. Arch hears noises and, thinking it's an intruder, grabs the gun, following the very advice Jeff himself gave him days ago. The bullet wounds Jeff in the leg. Screaming in pain, Jeff yells at him for shooting, forcing Arch to admit he remembers him perfectly. The amnesia was a sham the whole time. At the hospital, the truth comes out. Arch confesses that he lied because his real life is too hard, but now, seeing the damage he has caused, he is willing to change. However, Gabriel explains that the swap cannot happen yet. Even if Arch feels guilty, deep down he still believes his original life is worthless. And without that sincere conviction, the magic won't work. With no other options, the three end up living together in the mansion while they wait for Arch to find that hope. An unusual friendship forms. They share the sauna, eat tacos, and go out dancing. Gabriel confesses that he loves being human and experiencing friendship. In the midst of this, Martha appears to Gabriel and reveals a lesson: sometimes a lost soul doesn't need magic to be saved, but simply a friend by their side. Finally, Arch has a revelation. He realizes that he prefers to be himself with his real struggles and affections than to be someone else. He tells Gabriel that he is grateful he was his angel and states with certainty that he wants to see where his own path takes him. At that astounding instant, the magic takes effect. Arch blinks and finds himself back in the parking lot, in his original body and life, while Jeff wakes up in his mansion, restored but transformed. Jeff, having lived the desperation of the working class, uses his power to demand better pay for delivery drivers and halt automation. For his part, Arch reconciles with his reality. He talks honestly with his father and decides to quit the temp jobs to pursue his true passion, editing documentaries. The story ends with a symbolic gesture. Arch leaves a lonely taco on a table, and it lifts into the air and vanishes, a sign that Gabriel has regained his wings and continues watching over him from the invisible, enjoying his favorite food.